Welcome back to the channel, guys. We are here at FIBO Land Gym in Cologne, Germany, and standing next to me is Wesley. So we've been trying to plan this workout collab for a while now. I couldn't find myself getting up to the area anytime soon because I just moved to LA, but we are fresh out of FIBO.
Yeah.
Everything makes sense. Stars aligned. Yep. Here we are, about to hit a crazy chest workout.
Oh, that's going to be amazing. I'm very excited. I've been following Larry for a very long time, actually. Seeing all your records, and now also jumping into classic physique, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so
slowly but surely.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy. So, looking forward to your package and looking forward to this workout as well.
Absolutely. And if you guys can't tell on camera, he is very thick.
I just started the off-season, so it's only been 2 weeks since my last show.
Okay.
But let's just say we had a good head start.
So where are you sitting at right now, body weight?
121 kilos. So that's probably 266, 67 pounds, something like that.
Okay, I'm just under that myself. I'm 260 or 250 something right now.
Very nice.
What do you want to get started with?
At least I think some kind of chest press is easy on the joints. Because I've heard you're not really doing the bench press anymore, right?
Not anymore.
No.
I never thought I'd say those words.
Yeah. I've not done a bench press in honestly many years. Only the Swift machine, like an incline version maybe, but a normal bench press. I grew my chest with it a lot back in the day,
Sure.
but as I got 10 years older, things are starting to change.
Right.
So now it's time to play it safe, still target the muscle, stimulate it, and I think a chest press, with this gym, with this equipment, will be any chest press that's of high quality would be great. So.
Oh yeah, all right, I'm excited.
Yeah.
That Prius kicking, so. All right, so here we have the Panada Super Vertical Chest Press. This machine, from what Wesley just told me, was used by Jay Cutler and Phil Heath just yesterday. If these guys are using it, it's gotta be great. We're both very strong, but even still, we start with just a plate to make sure everything gets warmed up properly.
Yes.
Never too strong for a warm-up, right?
No. Like this, like very short, but it's like their genetics are so great, they would grow their chest anyway. But I'm a fan of feeling the stretch, but also the contraction right here, but without actually pulling your shoulders back. Yeah, feels good.
I like how it converges at the top end of the motion there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we were talking about in the room earlier, when it converges right here at the top.
You see the stretch in the chest, and also the contraction when your chest comes up all the way. That's what you want to feel also at the heavier sets.
And when you stop feeling it, I think that's when you have to lower the weight, right?
Exactly.
So like you were saying, I used to bench like this.
Yeah.
And then I would wonder, why is my upper chest not growing?
Yeah. Only like what I mentioned about Phil and Jay, their upper chest would grow from that.
Yeah.
So why would they do something else? But when your chest is only growing up to a certain point, and then you still have some weak points in there, you gotta do the full range to fill that in. It's no other choice.
How's your conditioning?
Good.
Still good, huh?
Yeah.
I saw those photos of you from this weekend.
Yeah.
Still pretty shredded.
That's the name of the game.
Do you ever get fluffy?
That's gonna be the idea of this off season.
Okay.
We gotta put on some serious mass.
Sure.
And I'm always kind of stuck into that conditioning mode where you're kind of afraid to go past it. But now it's necessary to really put on mostly mass on the legs. That's where it's needed. So we got to put on some weight, strength for a longer time, hold it, and then hopefully on the other end comes out a different physique.
Yes, I love that. I was just with Urs yesterday.
Yeah.
And I think this guy has like the biggest legs in classic, right?
sure.
By far. I mean, he's 278 right now. And I'm like, how the hell is he making weight?
Yeah.
So that's brings to my next question is, how fluffy do you intend on getting?
Well, I mentioned yesterday Jay Cutler was here, and he told me, I want you to be at least 280.
Oh, man.
So
That's a big cut.
Yeah, exactly. But I think my highest ever was around 280, but that was pretty fluffy like years ago.
Sure.
But now I think I can look pretty decent with that weight. But you know, health comes first. Everything needs to be in order. And when that's good, I can slowly creep up the weight for the highest possible strength and retention of muscle. And when you start prep early enough, it's gonna go away anyway. And we both know how to prep, so it doesn't really matter how fluffy we get. We always get in shape at the end, as long as you start early enough. Perfect. Oh yeah, you can feel it all the way to the upper chest. Perfect.
Yes, love that.
Come on. Go. Oh, nice. Yep. Perfect. Let's go.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. Come on. Nice. Easy. Very nice. Very nice. Yes, those are the reps. Yep. Yeah. Oh. Excellent. Nice. Force stretch also.
Yes.
Intensity technique.
I love it. I love it. Those are all the things I wasn't doing as a powerlifter.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Then it was just about point A to point B, and now it's about the same, but making it as difficult as possible in the meantime, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
How hard can I make it?
Yeah. That's what I wanted to say. When you saw Larry do his set just now, you could see he was focusing purely on the chest. Not about the weight, not about momentum, really on the chest. And that makes the weight so much heavier locally on the muscle. That's what we need as bodybuilders. To make the weight as heavy as we can possibly make it feel. And that's what creates the mass we need. It was the most insane experience so far for the FIBO. It was like,
Wow.
like back to back to back to back the whole time you're there. But it's at the same time an honor to have this capability to be there as like, we're just bodybuilders, we love this sport. But there's so many people who get inspired by seeing us do our thing.
Yes.
It's like amazing that this exists, you know?
Big time. You know, people often say, because they feel bad for me, like probably for you too, oh, are you tired? Or you must hate this.
Exactly.
I'm like, what's to hate about being,
Yeah.
you know, loved and appreciated?
Yeah.
Right? It's a great feeling. And it's not many opportunities in the year where I get to meet and greet so many of my fans.
True.
Maybe 2 or 3 times for the whole year,
Yeah.
you know? So the least we can do is just be present during those
Yeah.
times. And
It's a
it feels great.
Yeah,
It really
for
is.
sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Great.
Yep.
The version that Larry's doing right now with the narrow grip is way more difficult than with this normal grip. Because the squeeze here makes it a lot more difficult to do, but that is what bodybuilding is. Nice. Easy. Let's go. Nice. What is your rep range normally at for this close to the show?
Don't want to let it get lower than 8. So between 8 to 12 reps.
Yeah.
And then as I get closer, I'll start increasing my reps. Getting a little more volume in, like 15, sets of 15 or so.
If I could give you any advice, I would at least leave in one movement where you have most of your strength, to keep that around 8 to 12, to keep that mechanical tension on the muscle the same the whole prep, even towards the last workout basically. Then the other movements, yes, you can go higher reps as long as you stay to failure as close with those rep ranges as you did with the other rep ranges. So to tell your muscle, wait a second, I still need you to be around. Because what most people do, like they do a lot of more volume, more drop sets, but they never touch the weight or the failure point from before. So you feel like you're doing a lot more work, but what's actually happening locally is less tension, so less stimulus for muscle retention. So that's why if you at least leave one movement that is very heavy, like for the muscle, it's going to be enough to maintain it. But that's how I kind of, whenever I look back at a show where I look smaller or not as full, is where I actually did more pump sets as opposed to just stay with heavy weights. So as long as you won't get injured from them, of course.
Sure.
Yeah.
So up until a week out from a show, you recommend that?
Yeah, up until a week out. Basically, if, for example, the only reason, well, pretty much the only thing you could then change is the volume, but never drop that heavy exercise out. So then even do one set if it's still fatiguing your body too much. But you want to keep that stimulus in all the way until the end. Of course, peak week itself is going to be pump workout, with more getting the blood flowing and getting that insulin sensitivity up for the carbs coming up during the carb load.
Right.
But for as long as possible, I keep the weight pretty high, around 8 to 12 rep range for at least one or two movements. And the other ones you can play around with the squeeze and the mind-muscle connection and getting the blood there. Tank top time.
Definitely still conditioning. We can see it already. Yeah. Sure, it was 2 weeks ago, not yesterday.
Well, according to my weight, it's up like 7 kilos or something. So if you only look at that.
Wow. Unreal. How's this guy classic? So thick.
Well, honestly, I think I do want to do one open show before I quit or retire.
Okay.
At least one to see what it's like, you know? At least one.
I mean, from what I'm seeing, you definitely got the frame for it.
Thank you.
God damn. Yeah. Well, this is what an Arnold Classic winner looks like. Unreal. Let's go.
Squeeze there, nice. Perfect. Go. Yep. Huh. Nice.
Very nice.
But there are a lot of good guys doing the Olympia now.
Yes.
But who do you think is going to win?
Ah, man, that's a tough one. My predictions are always wrong. You know, if you weren't sitting it out, I'd say you.
Oh, thank you very much, man.
You know,
Thank you.
so with the current lineup, it's hard to say.
And you've got like Mike, you've got Rob Diesel, you've got Urs, of course, Hosema, and some new guys coming up. So it's a very interesting lineup for sure. And like, who would you like prefer? Like, what kind of look do you prefer to see on that Olympia stage win the title?
I like Mike's shape a lot.
Yeah,
I think he has a great balance, top to bottom.
sure.
Really aesthetic. Another guy, Kaiki, is coming up. I think he's gonna
Oh yes,
make some noise in the
It's gonna
next
be
year.
interesting at Pittsburgh, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think. Well, he did really well in his last division, and he just gained so much size so
Yeah.
quickly.
Definitely.
And I think he's gonna be in that top 3 lineup very soon as well.
That's
But with the current lineup, I'd say Mike.
Yeah.
This would be the favorite.
I think the same thing.
Yeah.
I think he won the Arnold. He was second at the Olympia before. I mean, he's pretty much set up to be the next champion unless something happens with him or someone has to shock us, like a Ralph Diesel, for example.
Right.
It really depends on who's going to show up at their best. But I think Mike has been forming it down. He manages 2 times in a row. So we'll see, you know.
gonna be very interesting.
Yeah.
And then you taking the year off, coming back bigger than ever is gonna be.
2026 will be an interesting year.
Yes.
Right? I think with flies like this, you can make it as difficult or as easy as you want. So I could do this with a full stack, but I would be training also the delts and other muscles. So what I like to do is think about bringing the biceps together and getting an ultimate squeeze, and the squeeze will zap your strength immediately. So that's the great way to make this movement a lot more difficult and less fatiguing, because it's locally in the muscle, not all the other muscles. You've got the striations in the biceps as well. Very nice.
Slowly it's coming in.
Yeah.
I started prep 2 weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Insane.
Maybe I'm overconfident, but I think I get in. That could be I get in shape pretty fast.
Okay. Yeah, that was something. Nice.
What we want to do instinctually is flare the elbows, round the back.
Exactly.
Right?
Precisely, especially like it's so easy if you think about putting your fists together. It's so much easier than straight arms and doing it like this. I mean, it's so much more difficult, and that's what people usually fail to realize, that it's really not about the weight. It's really about the muscle itself. You know, when we were young, I was also the same guy who did 1 RM bench presses, squats, deadlifts, just to see what can I do.
Sure.
But after a while, you start to realize that's not going to build the most muscle.
Not
If you
at
really
all.
want to be a bodybuilder, you want to build the muscle up, there's going to be techniques like this that put the most stress on the muscle instead of just the whole body.
And all how you do it. Many ask me, like, for example, this past weekend, what exercises should I do to build a bigger chest? I'm like, you're
Yeah.
probably doing them already.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's how you're doing them. Yeah. Yes.
Whoop.
Yep.
Yep. That's it, that's it. Yep. Go. Come on. Nice.
Post-show, he has not been slacking on his diet. I mean,
A little bit here and there.
maybe a little bit, very little, very little. I can't say that I can't see the rest of you, but at least like your shoulders, traps, your from here up.
Yeah.
How much more condition do you get than this up here? Like,
Yeah,
does
it's kind of, the lines are all there.
Yeah.
But then the strange thing is you see these thicker lines. Within these thicker lines, you will see even thinner lines if you look close. So that's the conditioning you want to see. At least what I want to see. I like with these. I like to stick like 20 plus reps,
20 plus?
getting a lot of blood in there.
trying not to get these traps in.
Yeah. It's got really good form here. You can see you're imagining only the side delts doing this and nothing else. Because some people, like you say, they kind of shrug it up,
right,
or use momentum or some strange arc they use to make it easier. But you can see, I can feel it, the activation of the side delts, you can feel every rep. So that's very good.
I tried to get as close to textbook as possible.
Yeah, because you can see, like if you look at the shoulders, are very round. And the roundness from this side is caused mostly by the side delts. So, and in a classic physique, you want that to be as wide as possible. To kind of get that V-taper when you're just standing like this, you get the V-taper. When you're doing even like favorite classic pose, what's your favorite classic pose actually?
Favorite? Be one hand behind the head.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Because some people do even a lat spread or something, or like a hybrid like this, for example. But then this side delt, if you didn't have this width, then it would, looks great. Because you can see this making much wider.
Right.
And back in the day, actual classic bodybuilding in the time of Arnold, they didn't have side delts at all. So when they would do a front lat spread, like what Arnold did, it flattens out at the top, which I think that's the only part we are doing better, is creating that 3D look at top as well. So the side delts to me are crucial to good classic physique.
And that's, with your physique, from what I see right now, is what stands out to me the most. This area right here.
Yeah.
Makes it look very 3D.
Yeah, I really try to work that as much as possible. You really get the quality and the volume at the same time. That's very difficult to do, but after a while, it happens. Then if you see it happening, you gotta take it, because then no one else will have that on stage with you. But you've got amazing shoulders, for sure. At least for your height, I mean, it's impressive to see, you know?
I just wonder what it looked like, how much I can retain cutting down.
Yeah.
That's 20 pounds to go.
Yeah, 20 pounds, okay, yeah. So how many carbs are you still eating?
I'm still on 200 a day.
Okay.
So no cravings, I'm not suffering yet.
That's nice, that's nice.
I'm hungry throughout the day, but
Yeah?
I did my last show down to 232, and it was like 0 carbs for 6 weeks.
Wow.
That was the hardest prep I've ever done for anyone.
Yeah.
Just constant cravings, constantly starving. I mean, no energy. That's what made me want to take a year off.
Yeah.
Because like, wait, I gotta rethink this whole thing.
Exactly.
I have to do this over and over and over again. It's not sustainable.
True.
That's when I decided to do open to turn pro. Save myself the 10 pounds.
Yeah.
You know, and then I can have the classic pro 242 cut off.
Yeah, that's smart, man. Do you have a coach right now?
My business partner in the gym.
Yeah.
We opened a gym as well last year in June.
Yeah.
He's my coach. So he sees me every day. He's hands-on. And
That's perfect.
I initially partnered with him just for coaching. We later on decided to open a gym together. But I chose him because all of his athletes, male and female, come in with their best conditioning. And
that's a trademark.
You know, I can't control my genetics or, you know, some things out of my control, but I can control my condition.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And conditioning is what he tells me is what win shows, right? So.
Yeah, usually it does, if there's nothing going on.
Right.
But conditioning, that's indeed what you say. Like the mass you've already built over the years, but what you can control during the prep, only thing is the conditioning. That's what you really, that's when you can show how serious of a bodybuilder you are, combined with the presentation. If you got those two things on stage, and you got enough mass, it's going to be an unbeatable package, for sure. Yep, perfect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. 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 Switch.
One time.
Perfect. A little bit of thinking, but alternate. Yeah. Nice. See the blood rushing in.
Let's go.
Epic.
Oh, very nice. Are you thinking of any cues while you do this to maximize contraction?
Well, actually, I focus more on the stretch.
Okay.
Because here, if you want to force a contraction, it takes away from the strength you've left on the stretch. And here, you want to focus mostly on the stretches there that keep the peak stimulus is happening to the long head of the tricep. So first, we're going to focus on that, and the movement after this will be for the squeeze. So you still get both, but you kind of split them up into two movements.
And are you locking the elbow or just shy of
No,
locking out?
just shy of locking out. Just you're going to a position to where you can stretch it out again. So it's not about the full extension, but it's more about going high enough so you can go back down, basically. Ooh. You're standing perfectly because the cable is perfectly aligned with your upper arm.
Okay.
Which means the elbow is doing exactly what it's made for, a joint movement, a hinge movement. So there's no torque on the elbow, just the exact motion it's supposed to do. So that's great. Okay. Very nice. Perfect.
Nice.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
That's perfect, actually. Yep. Nice. Easy, let's go. So this is one of those movements where you don't feel necessarily the most mind-muscle connection, but after finishing it, you should feel a little bit of a pump there. And sometimes there are movements where you don't connect to the muscle as much, but because the biomechanics are so perfect, it must work that muscle. And this is one of those movements where probably you would feel more doing a skull crusher, but it would wreck your elbows after a while, whereas this you can do to infinity, will never hurt your elbows. So it's sometimes choosing also the smart movements instead of always like the movements that might in your head feel the best. And sometimes this would be the best overall for longevity also.
I've never had a skull crusher in my routine for that exact reason.
Yeah, nice.
Always pain after I do them.
Yeah.
And they're just saying this, like no pain, no gain.
Yeah, yeah.
If there is pain, there
Wrong
is no
pain.
gain.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that kind of pain.
No. Very good. Yep. This is kind of like an extended, like rope extension. But now the tension is coming from way different angles, which is causing more tension and tricep for better growth. And also a much better squeeze in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, those are stones. Very nice.
Better than doing the traditional way, like with a rope here, for example, right? Because very similar, seemingly.
Yeah, because the rope, it pulls you up, straight up, but you're going to this side. So it puts a strange tension on the elbow because it's moving this direction, but it's pulling you straight up. And here it's pulling you exactly the direction where the cable is pulling you. So it's more also, again, a longevity part, but it's also better for the muscle because that's how the joint literally works. Because otherwise, when you're going up, you kind of don't feel much. You're going down and it becomes a lot more difficult. But actually the rope push down for a lot of is a safe movement, but it still puts like an unnatural tension on the elbow in the long run. And this is just a superior movement in my opinion for that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I get a much better contraction here for the reasons Wesley stated than doing traditional rope pull downs, which always didn't feel right to me, but I just did them anyways, because that's what I learned, that's what I was taught.
Are you feeling accomplished?
I'm feeling swollen.
Great.
Swollen.
That's the perfect time to check out the physique, right?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Is there a pose room?
Want to do a front leg spread as well?
Yeah.
Because I think it should be a classic in my opinion.
Agreed.
Right?
Yes.
And then side chest.
Okay. Let me step over here in line.
Of course. Yeah, but there should always be like a proper line. What I noticed, I don't know if you noticed it as well, during the meet and greet at the FIBO, people, they start to try to out-angle you. I'm like, you're going on a picture with us. Do you want to look bigger than us? Why do you want that so badly? I mean, don't you want to see the athlete itself? But
I never understood that.
yeah. And then back of the bicep.
Okay.
Now we have the benefit of seeing the back.
Oh, yes.
There's always something missing when you practice posing. You don't have a posing room. And so nice you can see your own back.
Oh, I love that.
Then, favorite classic pose?
Okay. So that one, I want to try and do your classic pose.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it's actually my favorite in the division, but I have no idea how to do it.
Okay. It's also the one that Chris used to do. And because I saw Chris do it, Urs did it, and some others, I'm like, oh, let's try it myself. So it's kind of a hybrid between the front leg spread and the bicep pose. So, or did you mean the Arnold pose?
Both.
Okay, let's do the one I just explained first. So what you always want to do when it's a classic pose, you don't want to hit it straight on because that's how we used to do it, but that's easy.
Okay.
You want to kind of make it real classic. So the side where your arm is flexing is the hip. You go into that side of the hip.
Okay.
So it's kind of like females can do it very easily to play with the hips. For males it's a bit more difficult. So you always gotta just, your knee goes that way and you automatically, you can kind of more extremely do this.
Okay.
But now the difficult part, how do you then contract this leg? So then you gotta push the hip a little bit back so you can get into the contraction like this. And then you put this leg as far out as possible up until you can still see the gap is closed. So if you put it too far, it's gonna look awkward.
Right.
So you wanna put it like this, then be in this position, and then to make it more classic, instead of going all straight up, first go in like this,
Okay.
and then blow out all the air, and then you've got the classic pose.
Yeah.
Nice. You want to try, yeah, it's going to be difficult for right now, but you want to try to see my waist goes into this direction, because your legs go that way, your waist goes this way to create an S form, which is the classic pose form, which draws like the statuesque feeling in people that they say, okay, that's a classic pose. Because I can do this, but it's like a bodybuilding pose, but that's like a classic pose. It's pretty much the same, but just different. So it's all about creating those lines, basically.
Okay. Yeah, like you said, it's very difficult to create that curve.
Yeah, so it's like you kind of push this hip far enough out, so you kind of also make your waist smaller. You turn a little bit like this, So you can actually make it, if it's straight on, it's always wider than a little bit from an angle. So from here, you can really create that illusion of a smaller waist as well. Yeah, it's getting there for sure. Nice. You can already see that it's getting there. And you want to push this knee to the other side, outwards. So like this. Yeah.
Oh, like
Not
that.
like a squat.
Ah.
You should know that.
Yeah, that's a lot better already.
Yeah, that's
The hips are perfect because you can see the lines all the way here. And that means you're putting the hip far enough back to get those lines of the quads all the way up. Very nice. And you've got a good bicep peak on that one.
Yeah, this is not the torn one.
Yeah, the other one is actually also, isn't that?
Yeah, this is the one.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane.
And then the arms one.
The Arnold one is, it can be the easiest, but also the most difficult, because it involves also that S shape, but you got to be quite flexible. So you actually want to stand that direction,
Okay.
then do one leg back, and then push your hip forward, so you're kind of in this position, and then all you want to do is pull a vacuum and then turn to this side enough, so you create that V-taper from the side basically.
This pose?
Yeah, a little, yeah, just like that.
Okay. And then you.
And then basically you're doing a frontal bicep,
Okay.
but then turn it this way.
While keeping my hips away, right?
Yeah, as much as possible, not entirely, but when you start like this, of course your hips are gonna go a little bit, but if you start too much in that direction, you're gonna just hit it from the front. So you wanna kinda exaggerate the starting position, and then when you turn, you will create the perfect combination of the angle and still showing the width of your arms, the peaks of your biceps, because otherwise sometimes you're a little bit too much like this and it looks like horrible. So you gotta hit it exactly perfect. Let's give it a shot.
Okay, so this is the starting position.
Well, like this. So your
More
foot
back.
more back, and you want to see this leg.
Oh, do you want to see
Yeah,
it?
yeah, just like that. Yeah.
Am I leaning my weight on this leg?
Let's see. On the front leg actually.
On the front leg?
Yeah, yeah.
So the leg, okay, the front
This
leg.
one is actually loose.
This is loose?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not bad actually. That's pretty good. If you push the hip forward a bit more. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's actually pretty good.
But I see what you mean.
Yeah, right?
My torso never moves in that direction.
Yeah, it's like the vacuum and pulling in the waist at the same time, and then holding that pose like that. And that's why
Yeah.
it's when they say favorite classic pose, and then the judge is like silent, you're like, please just say stop or relax, or and you're like, oh damn, I've got to hold that pose for so long. So it's a risky pose, but it pays off when it's done correctly. And honestly, you've done it pretty well for the first time, for real.
And then speaking of holding poses, when you're holding the vacuum, right, and they're making you go rounds and switch between the person next to you, how much do you exhale before you pull the vacuum, right? Because I can pull a vacuum exhaling for only a couple of seconds, or I can exhale for like 10 seconds and still pull the vacuum, right? But it's a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
So it's like, how, to rephrase the question, how deep do you want to pull your vacuum? Because if it's too deep, I feel like you get gassed too quickly. Right?
Exactly, because you mentioned it correctly. The longer you exhale, the longer you hold your breath. Because the moment you exhale, that's the moment you kind of hold your breath. So sometimes when they say frontal bicep, you then too long, then it's gonna take away from the oxygen that you could have taken in beforehand. So usually, I don't really count anything, but it's just a feeling. It's just a couple of seconds of breathing out quite quickly and then pulling it in. And then you don't want to go for the deepest possible vacuum, but just enough. Because you don't necessarily want to create that intense shadowing, like over the lower abs with the ribs, but you just want a narrow waist. Because that will be the best balance, because it kind of sucks when you put it in as much as possible and you can't hold it. Then the contrast between the vacuum and the normal stomach will be bigger, and that will be noticeable. But if you just pull a vacuum, like not a super deep one, and then you want to catch your breath, you can still breathe a little bit without it catching the judge's attention. So, and especially during heavy comparisons, that's what you gotta take into account. Because at some point you won't be able to pull such deep vacuum anymore.
Right.
Yeah, so I usually do like a few seconds.
It's very quick.
Yeah.
See, in my first couple of shows, I was exhaling way too much, trying to pull a super deep vacuum, and then I was gassed in like one round of it.
Yeah, that's so important. Presentation, like you can look as great as you want, but the presentation on stage is ultimately what can win or make you lose a show. Even if you look the best objectively, your physique, if you can't show it, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So you might as well show like a 90% presentation and try to go for 100, and all of a sudden it's going to go to 10% where you can't even do the pose normally. So it's kind of like finding that balance between the vacuum and not making it too perfect, but just enough so you have enough conditioning for the rest of the rounds as well.
Right.
That's kind of like,
For being too exhausted, that was definitely my issue.
And let's actually do the most muscular.
Let's do that. Oh yeah, definitely.
So I like to do the crab most muscular to show the details off as well. And I think you're very round and bubbly, so you kind of like this one, right? Yeah, this one. Yeah,
I like this one.
Yeah,
it used to be the crab.
Yeah.
But this one hides my torn bicep.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. Because you can't really see it.
Then it looks even more complete than the other one.
It does. Yeah.
All right, let's do our own versions. Nice.
All right.
Yeah, but the fullness is definitely there.
Yeah.
For sure. I think we kind of have similar physiques, whereas we're both upper body dominant.
Big time.
And because we're both tall, of course that's not an excuse, but it is a reality. It just takes long to fill out.
No doubt.
Whereas I can see in this workout, your upper body has a great connection there, so it's going to grow. And I know you're super strong with basically every body part, but especially with the squats, for example.
Right.
So it's always like, I'm sure that if you apply the mind muscle connection you have with the upper body to the legs, they're going to grow as quickly as possible as well. And that's what I'm doing myself right now.
And you're seeing changes.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what keeps me going. As long as I can see progress when I look back, I'm motivated.
Yeah.
It only becomes
about
depressing when you can't see progress. You're like, well, what am I doing?
Exactly.
Right. So as long as no matter how small it is, it's enough to keep me going.
That's the way of bodybuilding. That's what makes bodybuilding fun. Because we all know at the beginning progress goes so quick.
Right.
The fact that you see yourself changing almost every day is the fun part, but now it's about those small changes we can see from the effort we put in. That will make it fun. And I think if I'm sure you're already really working on making the perfect balanced physique. But I think when you even get, you're 5 weeks out, right?
Yeah.
And the more conditions you get, the bigger, at least for me, the legs are going to look.
That's right.
And they have to be shocked by the separation in your quads, that even if someone next to you has bigger legs, it doesn't matter as much anymore because you are the one with the quality legs. And to me, that's what classic is. And then if we combine it with like a proper sweep, then it's game over.
Oh, big time.
For sure.
All right, that wraps up today's epic chest session with Wesley. Just about 5 weeks out.
Yeah.
And I'm learning all that I can from my peers.
It's amazing.
So thank you so much for being patient and
of course
allowing me to be the student today.
Yeah. It's great to see that someone with your accomplishments still is enabling himself to be a student of anyone. That's not a lot of people are doing this. So whenever I can just share my experience, I'm happy to do so. So hopefully you learned anything from our experience together, our work together, and maybe you can apply it to the show itself. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on stage.
Most definitely. And I wish you all the gains for this next year as you enter your bulk season.
Yeah,
that's going to be
finally.
very long and likely pleasurable.
Yeah,
all the calories.
Of course, we're going to do it.
With that said, guys, please follow Wesley's journey. Link will be in the description box down below. And we will see you very soon in the next one. All right, guys, we are here at Evo Land in Cologne, Germany, and beside me is the owner of this absolutely beautiful gym, one of the best I've ever seen.
Thank you, man. It's an honor.
Opened my own gym in Claremont, Cali, June of last year,
awesome.
And we're constantly looking to other gyms, much like this one, for inspiration to improve for our next location. Man. I'm very impressed with what you've done with the place.
Larry,
hope you're proud.
Thank you so much. We are proud. Yes, we are Evo Land. It was our vision. It's our hometown we are in Cologne. So, guys, if you are in Cologne, just step by. We would love to have you here. And Larry, it's been a pleasure. You are in great shape, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your hospitality.
PR lifestyle is more than just hitting a PR in the squat, bench, or deadlift. It's about being the best version of yourself, always improving.
Come on, somebody out there sitting working harder than you. Somebody outwork you right now.
You versus you.